Okay, welcome to Rock Vegas, everybody. This is Glen Rockney with Matt Fallon. The draft is over. The Raiders have a few new players. We're going to talk about them. Matt, last time you were here, it was on my live stream, and we were both sad. You had a house party with a Jaguars fan, which is you found one in the wild. We've seen one. That's pretty cool.
And he was pretty pissed about I had a Jaguars fan, a Packers fan. And they were both kind of pissed about their picks, like right after ours.
Well, because Travis Etienne.
The draft just sort of went off. The draft just sort of went off the deep end after pick 16 or 15. Everybody just started reaching.
Yeah. Well, so we didn't get your official sit down, think on it reaction to Alex Leatherwood, which I also didn't really get mine either. But I reacted to it live. Some people don't like my live reactions, but it's like, fuck, I'm watching the pick live. I'm not going to script it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't.
Same.
Yeah. So the Alex Leatherwood, 17, was that the third offensive lineman taken in the draft? Tackle 3 was basically taken. That's basically how it was looked at, even though I don't believe Alex Leatherwood was anybody's tackle 3 other than the Raiders. I still won't believe it. How are you feeling?
I think I had him at 5 or 6, 5 or 6. So I'm not my thing with him is offensive line. I think over the past the past 3 years with Tom Cable, I think he has earned our trust a little bit to where, with Miller, obviously he developed him. But see, people like to quote that, like Tom Cable has, and everybody gets lucky every once in a while. And he's had, every year they've dumped millions and millions of dollars into that offensive line.
Yeah.
So he's had an all-pro caliber center. He's had an all-pro caliber left guard. He's had an all-pro caliber right guard, as far as none of them were like number one in the league, but they were all above average players. Right. So none of that besides Colton Miller but like Brandon Parker, he didn't develop, and Cable hasn't shown a track record in Seattle of being able to develop players either. So this pick reminded me so much of Carpenter.
Yeah. When
Seattle took him. And it was like everybody bashed that pick. It's a Cable pick. And Gruden, that's one thing he does, man. He gives his assistant coaches a lot of say in what happens.
He gives them more say than Mike Mayock.
Do, but that's what I was saying on Friday. It's like if there is a power struggle in the office, and there is I think it's like the scouts and Mike Mayock. They get to draft night, and he's like, okay, who do you want? Tom Cable? And Tom Cable goes, I want Alex Leatherwood. And the scouts are like, dude, I've been telling you for 3 months that I like Christian Darrisaw, and you're going to listen to your assistant coach. And I think there is some kind of I don't think it is what's being reported. I don't think Tony Pauline has any inside sources, and he's, got but I do think there is. I told you, I think 6 months ago, that I don't expect Mayock to be there much longer.
No, I don't either.
I still stand by that. I still think that. I think Mayock's kind of probably going to get fed up with it eventually, where it's like, hey, I'm getting blamed for this, but this is your pick.
Well, that's my theory, dude. I made a crackpot theory the day of the draft, and I said, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not sure Mike Mayock's doing this, but and I'm forgetting the guy's name too, but the Raiders have another guy in their scouting department who's from the NFL Network as well. So they have Mike Mayock. He's got a kind of a funky last name. I can't remember, but nonetheless, they have those two guys. And I'm like, I have a feeling when it's not really a super consensus pick, shit gets leaked to NFL Network, right? Because it doesn't go to Tashawn Reed. It doesn't go to Vic Tafur. It doesn't go to those guys. It goes to the NFL Network. It goes to the guys like Albert Breer, who's not at the NFL Network now, but he was back then. And with Mike Mayock also, and I'm pretty sure this was for the Leatherwood pick and maybe the 5 first-round picks from the last 2 years. I don't know if you saw the day 2 press conference with Mayock where he was saying I like to play the board. I like to sit back and take what comes to me. And John's the guy that, and
him.
I think it was, at the end of the day, I feel like there was so obvious that they both were like, yeah, fuck it. Let's go get him. Because you saw them high-fiving after Merrick and all that.
The videos between the picks is crazy.
Yeah.
Like the Leatherwood pick, it's just so anticlimactic. And then they're all super excited for the second round pick, and then when they traded up for Gillespie, it was like everybody was pumped. But then third round picks, they're like high five. very nice, whatever. You know, it's just kind of funny. You can kind of tell when it's a consensus pick and when it's not.
Right. And you can tell, but Mayock is like, yeah, he's saying I like to sit back and take what it is. And like, I feel like maybe that gets, because you saw that happen with, I don't want to jump too far, but like Tyree Gillespie, they didn't plan on taking him. They said it was just so egregious that he was still there on our board. He was our best player available, not necessarily a need, which where is that in round one?
Take good football players.
And where is that in round one? Use that strategy in round one. That's all I'm saying with Leatherwood. I'm fine with it. He has to work on his true pass sets. That's the problem with Alex Leatherwood, is that he's not a true pass setting tackle. And that's something he's going to have to learn and play right tackle. I still think eventually I think he's going to have a really rough Colton Miller rookie season, unfortunately. Like, I think it's going to be.
I don't think it's going to be as rough, though. Like, Miller's was like, I'm so shocked that Miller turned into a good football player because his was historically bad. Like, it was one of the worst rookie seasons. I don't expect it to be that bad for Leatherwood. And my reasoning is that Derek Carr and John Gruden, the ball comes out so quick.
It's going to have to. But I mean, the problem is look at the best rushers in the league, or the best rushers in the division, I should say. A lot of them rush off that right side. Frank Clark rushes off the right. Joey Bosa rushes off the right. I believe Bradley Chubb will be rushing off the right. It's like, yeah, all right.
Welcome to the league. You know, like,
I know. I think
one thing with it for me is the Raiders. Every time they do this, they reach on someone in the first round. They talk about this was the number one play on our board, and that's fine. That's what you should say. Like, you have to say that. There's like, you can't come out and go, well, he was like our 8th best player on the board, or else everybody just is going to think you're an idiot. However, if your board is consistently different than 31 other teams, and people will go on Twitter and tell me, you haven't seen their board. You don't know the Patriots could have had Leatherwood as their number one tackle. Like, yeah, maybe, but probably not. Because traditionally speaking, the Raiders are picking guys about 10 to 15-ish spots too high. Like, Leatherwood's a reach, but it's not like a reach where like this guy was a 5th rounder.
Wasn't the Arnett pick.
I thought Leatherwood was probably going to go 27 to 40 range. I thought, like, at the worst, maybe like Jacksonville at 33. Yeah. You know, like, and so it's not terrible. However, the trade back thing, like, I'm like, man, if you trade back to 24 and get Darisaw and pick up a 2nd round pick or something, or a 3rd round pick, it's just, to me, it's like the value, you know, like the value chart and all that. The Raiders just don't seem to be able to grasp that. Yeah, and that's my problem.
Exactly. And that's the thing. A lot of fans, and I don't want to spend too much more time on Alex Leatherwood, but a lot of the fans, they'll go, hey, I always see these like lame tweets, and they'll have like 8,000 likes on them and like 400 retweets. It'll be like, hey, instead of bashing our pick, let's support him. It's like, I do support Alex Leatherwood. Fuck, I want him to be a great right tackle. He didn't pick himself at 17. Why? You notice the Raiders half the time they don't even take guys who are even at the draft in the first round.
I was talking about that too.
Yeah.
Once the last time
Cleveland Furl's like, holy shit, I have to. Oh my god, I got drafted. He's like, I got to do it tomorrow. I thought I had a couple hours, just putting the blunt out and stuff. Oh man, Jesus, I gotta go on camera.
Took, the first round, the year we got Lamar Houston in the second. Do you remember who the first round pick? Who was the first round pick?
The first round pick that year, Lamar Houston year. So what was that? That was probably like 2010.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter, but I think their first round pick was there at the draft, and then they took Houston. He was one of the few people that had to sit in the green room like for the whole first round. Yeah. He thought he was going, and I'm like, well, that's the first time I can ever remember the Raiders having 2 players that got to walk on stage. Usually, it's like 2nd round pick Mike Mitchell, ESPN searching for like videos on him. You know,
that's what I mean. And like, you know, the last couple of years, I get it. They've limited the attendance at the draft, but I'm not sure Alex Leatherwood gets invited to the draft. Like I'm not. And so, okay, Leatherwood, they say he's going to start at right tackle. I do think it was kind of odd that Mike Mayock says, if that doesn't work out, we can put him at guard, which in my opinion means on Mike Mayock's board, he was guard number 1 on that board.
Which is fine. Like, I told, like me and you were talking about it, I'm like, I would take Elijah Vera Tucker right now and put him at guard.
Yeah.
And he can play tackle. I think he would be a better right tackle than Leatherwood. However, Vera Tucker, like, he's the number 1 guard. Take him. Like, people are like, oh, don't take a guard in the first round. I'd rather take the number 1 guard in the first round than take like the 5th tackle.
And I also don't even like that the Jets traded up that much to get Elijah Vera Tucker. That's when
they gave up a lot.
They gave up a lot to get a guard. That's when it gets really stupid. That's you take a guard when they fall to you. The same way Mac Jones, right? Mac Jones got taken by New England. They didn't have to give anything for him. So then Mac Jones becomes a way less risky first round pick than if the Niners were to have traded to number
and there
3
was
to
some
take
baller like late round or early second round picks because of all the people that reached in the first round.
Absolutely. And the Raiders got one of them.
Yeah.
Trevon Merrick. I was juiced, dude. I did my reaction video. I'm like, dude, just be JOK or Merrick. But in my pit, I was like, Sean Wade, this could be Cornell Powell. This could be something so stupid that like I was trying to outsmart myself. And then he said Trevon Merrick, and I had to sit and wait for a second. And I was like, okay, we're good. Like I just was like a relief.
And then I think on the TV it said like, because I didn't, I did a draft profile on him, and I didn't realize that his last name was like Morig Woodard.
Oh wow, I didn't know that either.
Like he has a hyphenated last name. And so like on the bottom of like I was watching on ESPN, it said Woodard.
Oh God!
And me and my dad were like, who? Oh, like I was like, oh,
yeah.
Like, God damn it!
Yeah, did they take this guy to Abilene Christian, the second stringer left tackle out of there?
Well, because we traded up. I remember when we traded up for Brandon Parker. We traded up for the first pick in in the third round, and I'm like, oh, we're getting somebody sick, And there was a lot of good players left, and then it's all
Fred Warner. Fred Warner.
I'm all like, we took another left tackle. Because he is a left tackle, but like it's kind of what I was expecting, and I think people like number one is like I don't like the tweets that say like if you switch Alex Leatherwood and Morig, it's a good first 2 rounds.
No, because both would be a reach at 17 in my opinion.
But like yes, that's a good first 2 rounds, right? But like how good of a first 2 rounds would it be to have 2 good players there?
Darrisaw and
Newsome
Merrick.
and Morig.
Yeah, Darrisaw and Merrick. Yeah, just
like if it was Greg Newsome, Merrick, and Brady Christensen, like I'd be doing backflips. So it's like I don't mind the value. I don't mind the like the Morig pick did make me feel a lot better about the Leatherwood pick because Richie Grant went, and I was like, oh man, he's going. Morig has to go here. Then I think Holland went.
No, Holland went first. Holland
which
went
I
first.
I think that's a reach, but
terrible pick.
Just with the other safeties on the board, because I for a long time I had Holland going like 34, 33. And that's just based on, I thought Richie Grant was going in the first, and I thought Morig would go to the Bucks or something,
Yeah.
But it worked out pretty good for him, I think. So.
No, and they got a safety who can be versatile. He could probably play both roles in a pinch. He's going to be, a true free, I would think, in the system for in theory. But if there's a huge injury at box safety, and now again, I'm not talking about we're sitting here, we're reacting to this as the second round pick. I'm not speaking after all the other picks happened because we obviously know what happened with the later picks, but there you have a safety you can move around. And then he's just good. He's got ball skills. Like you have a safety with ball skills, which the Raiders have not had a safety with ball skills since Charles Woodson was here last.
I said it like on Friday, I think he's instantly the best Raiders defensive back. And like, that's, that's obviously like, I like Mullen. I think Mullen's a career corner too.
Yeah.
I don't like Abram, that. But I'm saying, like, I think Morig, he instantly comes in and he's your number 1 defensive back on the team. So, that's a killer pick. It's a home run.
Yeah.
They filled their needs the first 2 rounds. They filled the right tackle spot. Is it going to work out? Who knows? But I do think that their safety position, even before the later picks that we'll get to, was solved. Like you have now you have him, Abram, and Carl Joseph before we get to the rest. Now, I like what the Raiders did day 2 and 3 because now safety doesn't worry me at all. And we'll get to the next picks, but that pick's a home run to me. And like you trade up, they didn't give up the 79 or 80.
Right.
I thought they would for sure have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably wouldn't have cared if they did.
No, you got to get him.
If they gave up pick 80, but they gave up 121. Mm-hmm. And they got a 6th back or 7th back.
How about Mike Mayock? Mike Mayock saying that giving up pick 121 felt like he lost a child. How does Lee feel about that? Being a 4th round pick.
I don't know. We're not really. I kind of called her dad a bitch on Thursday, and I apologized.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying,
she
like,
was
if it was
back
like
and forth with me, I was like,
yeah, you can't even say
cool, man. I like her because people will like say something like my comment wasn't like it was bad, but it wasn't like I was reading her she posted like I woke up with Grace this morning or whatever, and people were just like tell your dad he needs to die. I'm like, calm down. This is a football pick. Like,
well, yeah, and no, I just
it's like
fourth round pick losing a child, man, is the weirdest thing I've ever.
It's a little drastic, dude. Like it's a little drastic. You blew one on Tanner Muse last year. Like you didn't really you blew. that didn't feel like losing a child. Like,
yeah, seriously. But and then this is where we're getting to the third round here. The third round, 79 and 80. The Raiders go back to back. Weird. When I was doing a reaction, it was weird because I wasn't expecting the second one to come immediately. So I was like, oh shit. And then so at the time, and I'd like to apologize, I have to give a formal apology to Malcolm Kuntz. Formal apology. I didn't know who he was. No joke. I didn't know who he was. And people will be like, in my comments, how do you not know who Malcolm Kuntz was? I'm like, shut up, Raider 27898, dude. You didn't know who that was.
They're on Google.
Yeah. Dude, it sounds like he sounds like a murder mystery novelist guy, who makes like movies about spies or some shit like that. Like I don't. It doesn't. It didn't. The name scared me, and then I see it. He's a bendy edge rusher, real long arms, can move. He didn't get to do his athletic testing at his pro day, and obviously we didn't have a combine this year. Mel Kiper had him at and say what you will about Mel Kiper, and that was what other people were saying to me. Hey, Mel Kiper had him high. It's like, weren't you trashing Mel Kiper last year when he trashed the Ruggs pick? So do you like him or not?
Like the Leatherwood pick all day. They're like, well, what does Mel Kiper know? And then all of a sudden he's pro Raider, and it's like Mel Kiper's
smart now. Yeah, he became
That's
smart.
Typical.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I'm like,
it's mid-second, I think. Hit him mid-second.
Yeah, no, we got a steal according to him. Like it was, and then PFF has him. I mean, look, say what you will about PFF. I still like some of their draft stuff. They had him at like 160, and Dane Brugler, the Athletic, had him at 190. So really, you can't call it a reach or not because there was no consensus opinion on Malcolm Kuntz. So I like the tools. It looks like to me, hot seat Max Crosby, in my opinion. That's all I'm saying when I watch him, because it's the same type of guy.
For me, it's like the 19th pick. I mean, sorry, not the 19th pick. I don't know. I'm just thinking back to last year.
79,
for me,
79.
Like when you get to the third round, that's when you can take those like swing and misses.
Yeah.
The Raiders haven't obviously done too well on them in the past couple of years, but it's one of those things I think where you get the traits, and that's kind of what I'm excited about the second and third day.
Yeah.
For the Raiders.
Really, every pick.
In the past, in the past, you see him start, okay, we're reaching, we're going to take a team captain. He doesn't have that good of traits, but you know what? He has good college film. He's got a low floor, right? I mean, I'm sorry, a high floor. But see what they're doing now, and I like it, is like, hey, we're taking the high ceiling guys.
Swing for the fences.
And so I think he's got like potential, and he reminds me of like Melvin Ingram. That's who I had like as my comparison, where it's like he's got the speed rush down on the outside. He needs to get a little more powerful. But without college football, like being what it was normally, and without the combine, I'll tell you this is the hardest draft to analyze, because you're going these guys are going, like some of the guys like Walker Little played 7 college games. If the Raiders took him at pick, 17, I wouldn't have been that upset, but it's like he played 7 college games.
Yeah,
you have
he's
no
not
idea
starting. He's not starting.
You have no idea what this guy's going to do, and like, that's the same thing like with Malcolm Kuntz, is like he didn't get to do his pro day. If he ran, whatever, if his numbers were good, like, he might have been bumped up on some boards, and like he just didn't have a chance to do that. So I think like with that pick, I was a little more I was a little more confused with the pick right after.
I have no apologies. No apologies about how I reacted to that one.
And what I'm going to tell you is I like the player a lot. Like I had like a 3rd, 4th round grade on him. But it just basically tells you, hey, we wasted a 3rd round pick last year on Tanner Muse. That's all. Like it's the grade can be both. It can be the value for the team and the player. And I think as a player, I think Diablo could be really good. I think he's got, like, he hits hard. To me, this pisses me off saying it, but like, I wish like he can just slide right into Jonathan Abram's spot and we just like go, okay, we messed up there. You know what I mean? But they're going to try and play him at will linebacker, I think is what I heard.
That's what I mean. He's not a safety, and that's where I'm nervous. So this is why the draft kind of didn't make sense to me for these next couple picks, and it has nothing to do with the 2 players. Although I'm not high on Diablo, right? I don't think he's got the. I don't think he's a hard hitter. I don't know if he's a good tackler. That's one thing about him. I don't know about that. Makes plays in coverage, and he moves pretty fluidly. That's what I do like about him. But I just don't know if I see like. And again, this is a 3rd round pick. If he ends up just being like a okay rotational linebacker and a special teams guy, you live with it. It's not the worst thing in the world. But with the pick right after, you take Tyree Gillespie, like you said. So in my opinion, when they take Divine Diablo, I said, okay, maybe this, if Abram gets hurt, this guy slides in. Well, then no, that's what Gillespie's going to do.
Well, yeah, they're moving him to Will. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, so that's why I don't know if I like it that much.
And the thing with me is what this is totally. You can tell me all the Raider Nation for lifers are going to come for me on this one, I'm sure. But taking a player like that, I don't trust the Raiders.
Yeah, yes.
So like you take a developmental player and he's switching positions. Okay. We talked about this before the draft. Take a fucking linebacker. If you want a will linebacker, take one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you want a safety, take a safety. If you want a nickel corner, take a nickel corner. Right.
Yeah.
The Raiders, they always want to switch positions with guys and they don't have a good track record of doing it. Yeah. And I don't trust them to do that. I don't trust it to be successful. Exactly. You need good coaching, and Bradley might be a better coach than Paul Gunther. Whatever, we don't know. Like he's had every year in his career, he's had top 10 talent all across the board,
and
he's developed some of that talent. I'll give him credit on that. However, you're taking this guy and you're going to move him to will linebacker. So what I know, Murrow. We talked about it before the draft. I said all the linebackers are basically on 1-year contracts. Right. I mean, Littleton got the restructure. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't out of the world to take a linebacker.
No,
but you don't take it. Like they didn't take any defensive tackles, which was a little surprising.
That's where I wanted to go with that. That's where I wanted to go. I wanted a one tech.
Was Milton Williams on the board there? I think he was.
No, he wasn't. He went 72 or 74 to the Eagles. There was a big run starting before the Raiders. So I'm thinking, okay, they take Kuntz, fine. I'm thinking the next one, let's get that one tech that, okay, I don't hate the player, Jonathan Hankins, but I don't feel the need that we have to keep bringing him back on a 1-year deal. You should be able to get a 3-year contract guy that can fill that role in the NFL these days.
I wanted Ronnie Perkins.
I did too, but after Kuntz, I would understand why they wouldn't take 2 edge guys.
No, I know. I'm saying in one of those spots, I wanted him, too. And that was pretty much like the only one where I was like, this is exactly who I want right here. And actually, I did have Gillette's. I was looking at him there.
Yeah,
third. Yeah. So getting him later was cool.
Well, I had a feeling they were high on, because he was an SEC guy. The Raiders love the SEC. I had a feeling they were high on Aleem McNeil, who I am very high on. What is he? The one tech out of South Carolina, NC State. So yeah, not SEC. I stand corrected, but I'm really high on him. Super athletic. I think he went before. I have a feeling, just in my opinion, I have a feeling that was going to be the pick for them, and they didn't want to trade up again. I understand that, but that run right after 80, and since they traded away 121 to get Merrick again, I don't hate that. That's why maybe you trade down from the Leatherwood pick so you don't lose that 4th round pick, or maybe you could gain even just a 4th round pick if you were always going to take Leatherwood. Then I felt like they could have got that one technique that they really are going to need, because we don't have defensive.
Went one pick, so the Lions had a good draft.
Draft.
They got Levi and McNeil
and Sewell.
Yeah, but they got Levi and McNeil in round 2,
and Melifonwu too. I like him where they took him too at the 4th.
But they took McNeil 1 pick before the Eagles. Did you see that video where Howie Roseman's going around pumping, and then the one dude's like pissed? He's like, he wanted McNeil.
Jump up 1 pick, Howie. Come on, fuck. Yeah, he's
defensive tackle was a weird one, because just like safety, where none of them went in the 1st round. Mm-hmm. So the run happened in the 2nd or 3rd round. Mm-hmm. So that's why the Raiders, when the safety started going off the board, we got to go up.
Yeah.
And then with defensive tackle, they might have had a guy they were looking at, but I think that they feel pretty confident that they're going to get some value out of like Solomon Thomas.
They keep saying that, man. I just
like, come on, man. Yeah. I just don't trust it.
Don't let Solomon Thomas getting away from drafting a good player. That's just no one should ever. You should never be like, oh, but we have this guy. But I mean, whether and even if you like Solomon Thomas a lot, it's okay to have multiple good players. But that's the only reason why.
Kuntz. I like the Kuntz pick though.
Diablo just didn't do it for me. It just wasn't.
Kuntz as like a sleeper pick, like prior to the draft, but I was thinking like 4th, but we didn't have that. That makes sense that reach makes sense to me. Like if you're considering it a reach, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. You don't have another pick for 41 picks or 51 picks.
Yeah.
So like you have to reach a little, right? Yeah. Unless you want to trade back, and like some of those trade backs I was seeing, like it was weird, man. They were all over the board. Like the Texans gave up like 2 4th round picks and a 6th to move up to get Nico Collins. Mm-hmm. That's a lot, and then the Raiders, they didn't give up that much to even go get Mulrick.
Yeah, I
So
think picks this year aren't as valuable. I think this
it
year
was just kind of weird. Like they were all over the board though. Like,
yeah, you know, but like I think everybody wants their picks next year because next year is going to be, I mean, in theory, you're going to have that full college football, full access draft mode. I think this year, when the Raiders were sitting back in the 7th round, in my head, I'm like, why do we have a 7th round pick? Go into the 4th. Like go into the 4th round, even though you have another 4th round pick, get into the 4th, trade your 7th and like one of the something else, or the 6th, just trade that or whatever it is and get up and get somebody. Like Tashawn Reed tweeted, it's like they don't need 8 rookies on this team. They don't need 8 rookies.
No, I don't think when they started trading picks and stuff, I was like, I don't, they don't have enough money to sign all of them. So it's
it doesn't.
It's like the less the better, Like,
get a guy who's going to see the field, like I mean, or at least has a chance, has a path to the field. They don't have to start, but has a path to the field. And that's Divine Diablo. Like, okay, he could end up being a solid will linebacker. That's the way the league's going. I think they're trying to create that perfect nickel package. Now people keep saying maybe they could move on from Kwiatkowski this year. Slow down. They have literally one like old school linebacker on the team now, and that's Kwiatkowski.
And he's good. He plays very well.
He's good. They need him.
I don't even understand the logic of thinking to get rid of him right now. But
no, that's how Raider fans are. Raider fans are all the time. They're used to only having maybe one guy at every position. So like they're kind of like, why would we have 2? That sounds terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want depth, and that's what the draft's for. You and I talked about that. Mm-hmm. So like when you're coming into this draft, you get 2 starters. You get Leatherwood and Trayvon. So you think like, okay, cool. Like you have 2 starters there. That's most teams. That's their draft.
Yeah.
They don't get 4, 5, 6 starters. And like Raider fans are like, well, this was a killer that year that we got Abram and Farrell. And all, that was a killer draft because we got 7 starters. No, your team sucks.
You had 7 openings on your starting positions.
On your roster going into the draft. They had to start. There was no choice. So you don't want that. So taking a guy like Kuntz, right? He's not starting this year.
No.
But he might be that guy that if he develops the way they want him to develop, when Yannick is done, his contract's up. Yeah. Maybe they don't overpay him to come back and they slide Kuntz in there and he's developed and he's turned into what you hope he could be.
Well, and they like him. When you heard him, like they like every player they draft, but like Kuntz and Merrick were the 2 most I saw them get excited. Like the Mike Mayock and Gruden, like they talked about Kuntz, like they, to me, he's gonna have to like fuck shit up to not get on the field this year. And what I'm talking about, I don't mean like starting. I just mean some 3rd downs. Expect to see him out there, I think.
Yeah, I mean now you got a solid rotation there. You got Yannick, Farrell,
speed. You got speed. Yeah.
Like, but what I was saying was like in my draft recap I wrote earlier today, you take a guy there, okay? You're upgrading that position where you had Arden Key getting snaps.
Absolutely.
So like that's your 3rd round. That's fine. You're getting guys like Arden Key off the field, and you're getting a guy that actually might come in and give you productive snaps. Then like with Diablo, there's no good example because they didn't have a player like that on the team last year. But he might spell Nicholas Morrow they're saying he's going to play Littleton's role, but like I know Bradley doesn't blitz a lot, but Diablo seems like a perfect guy to blitz off that edge.
Yeah, he will. He is. That's where BD Williams, and I do trust BD Williams. He said that's what their line of thinking was with these guys. Yeah. He wasn't necessarily saying the players were the right players. He's just saying you're going to need. There's 3 very important positions in Gus Bradley's defense. You have your strong safety. You're going to need to be at least 2 deep starter, 2 deep.
Yeah, because if he gets hurt.
Yeah, exactly. The free safety isn't as important, he said, in that system because they're kind of just more rover type situation just in the scheme. So that box safety has a lot more responsibilities. That's why they took Derwin James so early when he was there. And you have Divine Diablo's weak side or the will, he was that's where he's putting him at. And Gillespie's with Abram, and then Yannick is the Leo, right? And Kuntz is behind him. So that's where he has him slotted. I know that might not be the case, but that makes a little more sense because instead of chasing starters, make sure you have, because we all see what the Raiders look like when they have like 3 guys missing from the game. It's like a completely different team. And
and then again, it's going to be a COVID. It's like another line of thinking is you don't want 7 starters to come in and play for your team because it's another COVID offseason. Like you're not going to get a full offseason. So having guys that can like sit on the bench for a little bit, get a couple snaps here and there and develop as a player, like instead of throwing them to the fire, like there's no reason like some of these guys should have been starting last year or the year before.
Not at all.
And then now they're bad players to everybody because they didn't develop correctly, and
they were
like other teams, good teams like the Packers, they draft guys They put him. I hate the way the Packers draft, but like they draft players and they don't play them right away, and then they plug them in when they can, and that's how winning football teams do it. Yeah. I mean, the Packers in Seattle, they keep winning, but their drafts are so weird. It helps to have a good quarterback.
That's exactly. Margin for error is a little bit.
Dude, their drafts every year are just perplexing. Like the Seahawks didn't pick until day 2, but their pick finally comes up and they take like a receiver that weighs 149 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's actually like the player, but I'm like, no. And that was the Rams. That was confusing.
Tutu Atwell. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I liked the receiver the Seahawks took, but it was still confusing. The guy, the small school guy.
I can't remember who. Oh, no, I know you're talking about, but I can't remember.
DeMarcus something.
I think. Dwayne Eskridge.
Dwayne Eskridge. Yeah. He's that was actually a guy I liked. But I'm like, Tutu Atwell, dude, for that's such a weird pick for them. Like they're 3 deep at wide receiver, start really good players,
and they have Deshaun Jackson on a 1 year, which is essentially what this guy is.
Where's Tutu Atwell going at 149?
Yeah, I know it didn't make any sense. But so the next couple picks we have Tyree Gillespie. He's I actually like the player a lot. I thought they got him at a really good value. I actually think I remember seeing him in a lot of draft boards a lot higher than where he went. So I understand the Raiders going, we got to take this guy. It just makes the Diablo pick weird. That's all. When they went up to get
him, I thought it was going to be Davion Nixon.
That was a slide that happened because he has some issues, mental health.
And I thought for sure that's who they were trading up to get. And I was sitting there with Dustin, and I was like, oh yeah, looks like the Raiders just traded up. I told him, and I'm like, it's not. I'm like, who are they getting? Corner. Defensive tackle. And so then safety comes up. I'm like, what? And then I know the player well. I watched a lot of tape on him when I was doing my draft rankings, and he's a good player. And I had him slotted round 3. He was safety 7 or 8 for me. So good. I mean, it's a good value.
Yeah.
It's not a bad pick.
Yeah.
I did not have Diablo rated.
No, I didn't have him. Yeah, that one.
Didn't have him rated as a safety or linebacker. But so that I could be honest, that. I knew a lot about Michael Kuntz. I knew a lot about Gillespie, but I had no idea.
Except for his name, Malcolm Kuntz.
I had to look up Diablo. Malcolm Kuntz. Did I say Michael?
You said I know a lot about Michael Kuntz, which is a funny.
I've been calling him Michael all weekend. I have no idea why. I think ESPN did. I think they said Michael Kuntz.
Okay.
It's been in my mind all weekend.
That's funny. I know. I want to call Tyree Andre Gillespie. I don't know why. They're just
I keep calling him Tyrese Gillespie, but he's a good player, and that's all you can ask for in the 5th round.
Yeah,
it was it was the bottom of the 4th. They traded back into the 4th, but that's all you can ask for.
Yeah,
is a good player, and so say you bring Diablo and one of them makes the team and one of them becomes good. You're still in better shape than you were before the season.
You have a one. If you hit on one of those 2 picks, it's fine. Nate Hobbs,
do love the following pick, and nobody had him. A lot of people didn't have him even rated. You couldn't even take him on the Pro Football Simulator.
Yeah,
I don't think. Because I looked I did a draft profile on him, and when I did the Raider mock drafts, I was going to take him in the 7th. Every draft once I traded back and got some 7ths, and he wasn't available on the simulator. Now I saw something where he had the 24th best athletic score since 1998.
Yeah.
Is the RAS, and
that's what you reach.
And you just take it. Yeah.
I agree. And so
I think Gillespie can play the slot too, though. For the record,
that's what they say. Yeah, I gotta. They throw around the versatility word a bit too much. You sometimes they'll say, oh, and he can do this, and then you'll hear the film guy go, actually, I have him charted for 8 snaps ever in slot coverage. You're like, all right, but I mean,
yeah, he played all over the field for them, but it wasn't like I wouldn't do that. I'm tired of moving players.
No, exactly.
Plays,
Well, and then so just lightly just to close out the draft, just so we can get some thoughts in and call it a day. The last pick was it Morrissey? Was that his last name? He the center, which whatever. You're
taking players that you want to sign. You're taking a player that you don't want to lose.
Somebody tagged me and they were like, Glenn, what do you think of this pick? I'm like, dude, what do you want me to say? Like, it's a fucking 7th round center. Like, yeah, we'll see. Like,
and he can't play guard.
No, and just whatever. It's maybe that's just the guy you keep on the practice squad, emergency situation. Maybe they turn him into like a long snapper or something. You never know. Just could be anything. Like, it's fine. Nonetheless, one thing I took from this draft, and I see it from a lot of people where like a take where they're like, man, Gus Bradley really hates the secondary. I'm like, no, I don't think so. They didn't draft a corner in the top 100 picks. So I don't think he does hate the secondary. And with the slot, right? Who's going to be competing for slot corner this year? In realistic, Amik Robertson and
Hobbs now.
That's what I'm saying. So you didn't hate Amik Robertson enough to say, I need to bring in a top slot guy. We need to get, you could still go on the free agent market. I think Poole is still out there. Could happen. I'm not saying.
That's one of the guys I liked. But
right. I would too. But I will say, I don't think Gus Bradley hates the secondary. I think he understands that Jonathan Abram's a walking collarbone injury. And he understands that maybe Jonathan Abram is, if I can't fix this, I need to have some developmental guys that I can fix it with. So I get that. I think they just want to be faster. And this defensive scheme is a lot easier, right? Paul Gunther wanted you to know like the opposing person that you're going up against. He wanted to know your social security number, their first, all the security questions when they log into their account, then go stop the run, then go rush the passer. These defensive linemen, they're rushing the passer for Gus Bradley. And that's also why I kind of like Rod. I'm working my way up to trusting Rod Marinelli again, because I don't think Rod Marinelli and Paul Gunther was a match made in heaven, because you'd have a strictly pass rushing defensive line coach who just likes to let it rip. And you saw it the last couple of weeks of the season. They kind of played a little different, more energetic. And then you had Paul Gunther, who wants you to do the Pythagorean theorem before the fucking play happens. And then, I think they added a lot more speed. They chased athleticism, like you said, with Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs is a 5th round pick, but he's in the top percentile at his position and athleticism. That's who you reach on. They did it with Isaiah Johnson a couple years ago. Freak athlete. He might be a starting corner this year. Like, I'm just saying.
So, yeah, and I think they like with like Hobbs, he was like 2nd behind like J.C. Horn.
Yeah,
like a lot of the athletic categories. So it's like in the 5th round, you take that risk, and like then of course Dubois comes out with a stat that it was like this was a horrible pick. Dude, it's the 5th round. The Niners took a guard in the 2nd that like I probably wouldn't have
Don't
taken.
disrespect Aaron Banks. I like Aaron Banks, but
yeah, but I wouldn't take him in the 2nd.
I wouldn't have either. There were, exactly.
But the Niners, like somebody else said, and I get it, the Niners have earned that right to like be trusted.
Well, and they like to run. They like to run the ball, and he is a run blocker. Like is like to be honest, the only reason I'm not hating on it that much is that might be what Alex Leatherwood is, and we took it at 17. That's the only
one thing about it too is like, what 2 things do you think? Like you could tell what Gruden dislikes very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't hide his cards very well. He was clearly very upset with the run game last year because he cut all those guys that had terrible run blocking grades, cut all of them, goes and gets himself Richie Incognito back, who's like one of the best run blocking guards in football, goes and gets himself Leatherwood, who is a run blocking mammoth. And, Miller is not great in the run game.
No, but he's quick. They wanted to win. They wanted to take that outside zone scheme. And it was a direct quote from Mike Mayock. He said, we wanted to get Jacobs to the 2nd level untouched more, rather than having him create yards behind the line of scrimmage like he had been. They wanted to have athletic guys, because Denzel Good is not fast. I wouldn't be surprised if Denzel Good is not starting at guard. I'm telling you.
No, but like Simpson's not either.
No, I'm just saying, and we could be could be like Nick Martin could be coming. I'm just saying there could be some stuff here. Denzel Good is like I like Denzel Good. I actually think hey, well, you said he couldn't play guard. You said he couldn't play guard, so that was your scouting report.
I went and looked and found some pit tape last night, and like he never took a snap at guard. Like his whole college. Usually you'll get guys like the versatility word. He took 12 snaps there when he was a freshman. But he didn't take any. He's a center. So.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know. I think what they were trying to do is put some heat under Abram in the draft, put some heat on him. You know what I mean? They want to get faster, which I'm always okay with. And they want to get back to running the ball. They clearly want to be a running first offense. And they've put resources in at wide receiver. I want to know if you've noticed this one thing that I've noticed. I was talking about this with Marcus Johnson. I said, have you ever noticed that most of the Raiders' 1st round picks under John Gruden have the same like personality? besides Jonathan Abram. Jonathan Abram's kind of an outlier, but you have Colton Miller, kind of an aw shucks, quiet guy. Alex Leatherwood is the same guy. Like you listen to him talking, he's just like, yeah, just really, really excited to get to work. Just one of those guys. You don't see a lot of eccentric personalities minus Abram taken in the first round. But then as the draft goes on in like the third, fourth round, you start seeing the dudes like, yeah, I'm gonna come in, I'm the underdog, I'm a beast, all these type of guys. Like I feel like it's John Gruden falls in love with the yes sir guys in the interviews, I think.
He loves the phone call.
Hold on, I can't hear you. Hold on. Ed.
He likes the phone calls, like you want to be a Raider, like
yeah.
Yeah. But did you see the Panthers one where the coach called the guy, Matt Rule calls the guy, and he's like, hey, blah blah blah, how's it going? And he's all, are you ready to come over or whatever? And then the guy's all, yeah, we're still trying to sort through things right now. Like he thought he was calling him as an undrafted free agent, but they took him in the 7th.
Yeah. He's like, how'd you get this number? Yeah.
The guy's like, we're still going to sort through some offers. Like,
yeah.
The guy's like, no, I drafted you, bro.
Like, yeah, there's no offer. Yeah. You need to show up. Yeah. And then
I was just thinking, there's definitely been some Raider picks in the past where the guy was probably not expecting to get called at all. And Gruden's all.
You remember when I think it was Mayock, like the first year, I think it was with, who was that? Was it Jillian Ware, that tackle that they took in like the 7th round? And he did it intentionally to like stump the NFL network to not have tape. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, it's just, stop trying to own your fucking TV guys, man. Like,
dude, and like the 7th round picks, like, it's like, you're trying to get a guy that you don't want to compete with other teams for on UDFA.
Yeah.
And actually, like, I'll touch on that for a second too. I think the Raiders got 2 players undrafted that like are better than like anybody that got drafted in the 7th
Darius
round.
Stills and the tight end from BYU.
Yeah, Bushman.
Yeah.
Like they did good in the UDFA pool this year. And they always have a couple of them that make the team every year. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised to see both of those guys make the team.
Well, what's his name? He better. I mean, I know this isn't like huge in the NFL money, but then they guarantee Bushman 125K or 125K. I'm like, I'm not saying that's guaranteed to make the team, but nobody else got that out of the UDFA hall. So I don't know. Just
a couple teams did it, but like as far as ours go, yeah, that was it. Like, somebody gave the other defensive tackle I wanted, they gave him a pretty hefty deal. Marvin Wilson, he went undrafted.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and like that was a guy I remember people talking about him being like a top 5 pick,
first round pick. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Demontre Moore style. That was how Demontre Moore was back in the day. He was like the number 1 overall, and then he got like a 6th round pick.
Yeah, I think like, these guys that had a bad year, they didn't have a chance to redeem themselves.
Yeah.
So like you get these guys like they just didn't have a chance to like college football. It's different, man. Like this year, you're going to see a lot of 1st round busts. You're going to see a lot of 2nd round busts, and like you might see more players drafted in the 6th or 7th round, that 5th, 6th, 7th round that are like NFL starters for a long time, just because you didn't get guys like a lot of times. How many times do you see it where a guy comes on and has like just one great year and he gets, his draft stock goes up, and you just didn't get that. Like these opt-outs and stuff. And we didn't take one opt-out player.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm saying I have a theory too. And if Raider fans feel like I'm being really low about Leatherwood, I'm still low on the pick. Now, I will say it should be fair to expect at least instant success in the run game with him, because he does have 47 starts in 4 years at Alabama, didn't opt out. And then you do have a guy like Rashawn Slater. Oh, look, he looks fantastic. I mean, you see like Rashawn Slater, he still looks great. Like it's not like he, put on like 30 pounds or anything. Like he looks good, but hasn't played football in a year. Like actually played football at a position, a very high contact position. This isn't wide receiver.
Might have a struggle in the early.
That's what I'm saying. Instant success out of Leatherwood. And when I say success, he's still a work in progress in the pass game, but I think that in the run game, he should be ready to go right away. They should be able to run to his side. And I guess that's what you want out of your right tackle. I think that's one thing John Gruden didn't like about Trent Brown, I don't think, is that maybe the run game, he couldn't just run off his side all the time, and even when he was out there. So yeah, I don't know.
Like Slater, like is moving. Like that's the thing too, is like Leatherwood is switching positions as well. Like he played left tackle at Bama. But
I think Darisaw, I don't know if is Darisaw playing left tackle in Minnesota. I don't know if he is. I don't think he is.
Didn't they draft a kid? Didn't they draft a kid a couple years ago?
That's what I'm saying. I thought they had a starter there already.
I'm not sure.
No,
but
I don't
think
know.
he'll.
No.
I don't know either. I know like the Chargers just need both. They need both, like left and right.
Yeah.
But you know, man, it's just gonna be tough. Like you're gonna get like, of course, you're gonna get the fans that like automatically want to like assume. Like, my favorite was when Mayock had his interview, and everybody's all of a sudden, well, doesn't that make you feel better that he was their number one player on the board?
No,
not at fucking all, because Farrell was their number one player on their board. You know, I know I don't trust their board.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sorry, they haven't proven themselves. They haven't proven that their board is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that, like, you know, like we were talking about, I think you got a lot more upside players. Mm-hmm. And instead of having guys like Farrell, where the floor is kind of high, but the ceiling's really low.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I could say the same thing about like Arnett. He was supposed to be
corner.
Like
he was the slowest corner in the draft.
Pro ready. Yeah, but he was supposed to be like pro ready. His floor, he's not.
Are you pro ready for 4.3 speed? You never are if you're 4.5. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like his floor was supposed to be pretty low, you know, and like, but the ceiling was low. And like, I'm just kind of tired of those picks. So like the fact that they were able to go get some athletes, and you know, Diablo might not have a role on the team right away, but he's an athlete, and usually the athletes find a role, whether, like you said, special teams. Like he might come out and be an elite gunner, you know, and like you need those guys. Would I spend a 3rd round pick on him? Probably not. But, you know, if they took Diablo in the 4th, they kept that 4th round pick, nobody would care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
so it's just
take me through. So like, when I look at this, like this draft, I don't love it. I'm about half on it, where I'm like half good picks, love it, you know. But the other half, you could talk me into it, because again, people don't talk about it a lot. Alex Leatherwood is a freak athlete. He's very athletic. He's not. This isn't like they took a slow tackle. Same concept with Colton Miller. Now again, we might have to put up with that kind of rookie year. You don't think so? I think so a little bit. But with the other picks, you look at Farrell, right? When they took Farrell, I knew a lot about him. He was a very, very popular player, Clemson guy. Like everyone had seen him play. And I look and I go, well, let me look at his measurables. I look at his measurables and I go, what the fuck? But some of these other guys like Leatherwood, Arnett, slow. Everyone's like, oh, the time. Remember the excuse with the stopwatch for Arnett? With like, Arnett's not slow, dude. That guy sucked with the stopwatch. It's like, no, he doesn't. That's the biggest cope I've ever heard in my life. But and the short arms too for Arnett. So it's like, you're already like, Clelin Ferrell is a good pass rusher. Here's my take. He knows how to rush the passer. He's not fast or athletic enough to do it. That's the thing with like Clelin Ferrell. Like he has spin moves. He can use his hands. He's a technician, but there is just that roadblock you run into when you can't bend and you're not fast. You know, these other guys, Malcolm Kuntz can bend. He's fast. He's got long arms. So you can maybe see that like, okay, this guy might be off our team in 2 years, but he also could be like the guy we pay in 4 years, you know, to be our like edge rush king. Just like,
well, you take the guy that, okay, he's not a technician. He's not fundamentally sound.
No.
Okay. Like Farrell. Okay. And you take the guy that's not, and has all the natural abilities in the world, and you hope that your NFL coaching staff that you're paying millions of dollars to can develop that player.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen. Like you need the player that's going to work. You need the player that's going to learn. You need a player that's open to listening to veterans. Like if he goes and listens to Yannick, sits behind Yannick for a year, you know, he's like, everything he tells you, you listen to him. And he seemed like, I heard an interview with him. He seems like a
smart guy
going to do that. You take a guy like that and you have the upside. And if he turns into half the player Yannick is, it's a good 3rd round pick. And
that's Gillespie to me too. Gillespie to me is like, they took a guy who can run. I mean, you see him, they have clips of him covering Kyle Pitts. That's not something I would put on him in the NFL. I probably wouldn't do that, but you know that's there. And all I want to be able to do in a couple of years is look back on some picks. Let's say they didn't work out. Say this draft sucks. I want to be able to look at the pick and go, what the hell were they thinking? Right? I see these numbers and go, okay, these guys are athletes. At least they chased athleticism and traits and upside with these guys, you know, which they did. So as much as I trash the Leatherwood pick, as much as I trash the Diablo pick, again, I've apologized for the Malcolm Kuntz reaction. That was just a live reaction. I'm fine with it now. The other two, not so much. Merrick, stud, best draft pick of this organization, in my opinion. Value, when you look at value and the player they got, I think it's the best pick of the organization with Mayock and Gruden at helm. Yeah. So that's about it. If you have any last thoughts on the draft, take your finger off.
My bad, dude.
Yeah.
My bad. Like we were saying, I think it's like you take players with the high upside, like you were saying, and it's good. I think like I have a better time giving them like a B minus, where you're like, okay, this could turn into an A plus, or like a C where it turns into an A plus. Like I that's what I'm going to say. Is I'm going to say the grade today is a B minus C.
Yeah.
But the potential is B to A range. And that's fine. It's better than having a draft that's like, hey, it's a C and like the potential is an F.
Or B minus tops. You're like, okay, sweet.
What I'll say is like, it reminded me of like a Seattle Seahawks draft, like where they take players that might not be a consensus high on the board, but they're high on their board and they're athletic and they have a chance to become really good football players. Yeah. So if I can get Michael Kuntz and like those guys, I would just say, don't expect everything to just be great right off the bat with any of these players. Minus, I hope Trayvon Moehrig can come and be a starter day one that is an elite player. However, like Leatherwood and Kuntz and Diablo, and you have to give them a year. Like a couple of those guys are switching positions, so I wouldn't expect like 4 or 5 day one starters, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all. It's good to have depth. One last thing, I didn't want to speak on it too much because I don't see the Green Bay trading Aaron Rodgers at all. I just don't see it. They don't have to. They don't have to. They don't. He's given them like a couple options, which it's pretty cool that like Rodgers reportedly thinks this is a good spot for him. I'd have to
be Vegas and Denver.
Yeah, so I mean, like that's cool. People keep asking me like, what would I do? What would I give up? Look, after the draft, I say go for it. I mean, I would have done it before the draft too if you wanted to. Anytime you can get elite at a position, go get elite at a position, especially quarterback. When you could jump from the 12th best quarterback in the league to top 3, undebatable top 3, sometimes number 1. You do that. So whatever it would take, I would do it personally. Anything that doesn't involve
whatever they wanted.
No, I wouldn't give up Darren Waller. That's the one thing. The only reason I would.
I didn't say Waller.
Yeah, the only. Yeah.
Give up whatever they wanted beside Waller.
Yeah, well, because I want Rodgers throwing to Waller. Yeah. I want Rodgers and Waller. That's like the reason I want Aaron Rodgers is because they have a guy like Darren Waller. So yeah, picks wise, if it was the next 3 first-round picks, I'd do it because I try to chase that Peyton Manning Denver, last few years of an elite quarterback's career.
Get one Super Bowl run, like you're better than the last 25 years. So
yeah, no, I agree.
Like, go for it. You got to go, like you said, go get elite players, and I think that's like what the Raiders lack. And like this new state, if Rodgers ends up available and they're going to trade him, we talked about it with Brady, and I think the Raiders were highly considering Tom Brady last year, but I think that Mark Davis would have a lot to say about it. I really do. Like this brand new stadium, like he wants to sell tickets. Like he would have a lot to say about Aaron Rodgers coming.
Yeah, and I think he's going to need a full year of a full stadium, honestly, because I don't even think he has the money to pay Aaron Rodgers. He has a way higher contract than Carr, and he deserves it.
We can do a whole podcast on Mark Davis' finances, and it's probably not good.
No, it's not going to be good. So
but he bought a WNBA team, dude.
That's sick.
He bought a WNBA team, right? Don't you know his finances are fine?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I know. That was a good one. I love that one. It's like,
dude, if you and I put together like all our assets and like we borrowed some money from family, I think I could probably buy a WNBA team.
Yeah, definitely.
Like they're not that expensive. Like there's homes in Sacramento that cost more than that.
I believe that. I believe that.
It's Sacramento.
Yeah, I believe that.
So he bought a big house in Sacramento, basically.
We all dream of such. But that's it for us. I think that's good. That's a good wrap up on the draft. Definitely, maybe we can do a Mark Davis one because it'll get slow real fast here. So I think
maybe like next month sometime when
that's what I mean. Yeah, we'll do. That's what I mean. We'll wait for because they're not even doing full rookie mini camps. Like it's going to be real bad, like real slow. Like
we're gonna talk about like alternate jersey options.
Yeah, because I don't want to be the guy that's like, did you see that Henry Ruggs ate out 4 times this week on Instagram? Like, what is that a red flag? Like, I hate that type of shit. I'm not.
They
were
at the park and Zay Jones looks good.
Yeah, Zay Jones was putting Vaseline all over Carr's arms in the off season.
All right.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, this is Matt Fallon. You guys know where to find him at Fattest Malin on Twitter. And I'm at Glen Rockney. This is Rock Vegas. Best of luck to all the Raiders draft picks. Hopefully we can get one on. Let's work on getting one on. How about that?
Yeah, we'll go for
Nate Hobbs.
Nate Hobbs.
He's electric. I watched this thing. I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. So, all right, man.
All right, buddy. See ya.